Welcome to Lassoing Leadership. I'm your host, Jason Rogers.
And I'm your other host, Garth Nichols.
Well, we are into season 3, and this is a very special episode, episode 7. We've had a great run of pods so far, and still so much to look forward to.
Yeah, that's right. We've already recorded at this point our first live experience at the Case National Leaders Conference in Vancouver. Had a blast. And we also have our Guestapalooza special episode as well, where we're bringing together a whole bunch of guests, and that'll be fun because we have had so many great guests on this show.
That's right, Garth. And that's what I think I love most about this podcast now is, Ted Lasso is a thing, but I actually love the guests more than anything. And I've got a feeling that today's guest is going to be no exception.
Yeah, this is a really special one. I have the privilege of introducing Tracy Faucher. I've known Tracy as a colleague and as a friend for quite some time now. We actually first met a long time ago at a Case Leadership Institute. She joined Cohort 21, which I've spoken about before on the show. She joined as a coach and then moved up to a facilitator and is now sort of like general counsel, someone we just turn to all the time for great ideas, an expert that we tap into for knowledge. We tap into her for calm, for experience, and for perspective as well. So, Tracy, welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy you're here. Can you take a moment to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Well, thanks, Garth. Thanks, Jason. I'm super excited to be here as well. So I am the deputy head at Holy Trinity School, which is Richmond Hill, just north of Toronto. Toronto is where I live and hang out with my partner, Stefan, and my very cute dog, George. And at Holy Trinity School, I also have the privilege of teaching a section of grade 10 history and coaching our cross-country senior team. So very busy, but I love it.
Yeah, and you're a bit of a runner too, right?
Yes, currently training for a half marathon in May.
As you do in all your spare time. But also when you're running, I think you sometimes listen to the show.
I do.
So that's good. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're listening for, why you chose to listen to, because you're one of the OG listeners. So
yeah, it's true. I haven't missed an episode yet.
We'll send you a badge or something.
I feel like there's something out there that we should be able to earn. No, I was really excited when I learned that this podcast was happening. For me, Ted Lasso is a show that we've watched in my household through and through. Love the show. Leadership is something that's very important to me, both because I like to grow myself as a leader, but I also like to help mentor and grow others as well. So any opportunity that I have to reflect and learn and listen is what I'm going to take. So your podcast really fits the bill on that one, I think.
Oh, high praise.
Well, yeah, thanks, Tracy. Thanks for listening all those hours and enduring our commentary back and forth. And I do agree. I think Ted Lasso, the series, is a great one of those wholesome series that you can come back to and really see leadership through the lens of this series. So while we're speaking about the series, Garth, why don't we jump into a summary on this one?
Yeah, let's get going. So this episode is called The Strings That Bind Us, and it first aired April 25th, 2023. The Greyhounds try a new strategy that makes everyone think outside the box in an effort to bring teamwork to a higher or maybe lower level. Meanwhile, Sam prepares to host a VIP guest at the restaurant. Relationships in this episode take center stage. And before this podcast, we were talking with Tracy, and this is dripping with leadership lessons because of these relationships. So with Ted's strategy starting to affect the team's dynamic and unity in both positive but also challenging ways. So lots to look forward to in this one.
Well done, Garth. And I note that you didn't jump into too deeply into total football, but the new strategy or offense that the team is putting together. And I loved this part of the show, and I think I'll talk about it more a little bit later. But there's a moment in there where Beard does a presentation to the team. I don't know if you remember it, but the presentation is pure magic. It doesn't rely, solely on the philosophy. It jumps into humor, analogies, the passion for the game, a little bit of history. I don't know. I really do think that this presentation is a template for any leader who wants to create an opportunity for change in an organization or to motivate people who are around. So above and beyond your summary, I just add that, Beard does shine in this.
Yeah. And I think he takes it beyond the PowerPointless. He's
Yeah.
he's using the PowerPoint in a really effective way. So lots for Tracy to pick up on. So let's jump in. Tracy, who is your favorite character in this episode?
I actually had a tough time narrowing it down, because I think the show and the writers of the show, knowing that they were going to be focusing on total football and the change and dynamics that brings in the team, I felt that this episode really spread itself across many key players, at many key different times. A lot of people on the team itself were highlighted for different reasons, which I think really mimics the idea of total football.
Mm-hmm.
So my initial favorite character was the team, but I think that is cheating a little bit.
Yes.
So I will pick one person. So the one person I picked is actually Jamie Tartt. The episode before this, we really see him, doing his training with Roy. We see that at the beginning of the show, but he really steps in at a critical moment, at halftime, in the game, and really makes a call that ties everything together and really turns it around. And you've talked about Jamie's arc a lot, on the show, and I think this moment is a big part in his arc. So for that, I chose him.
Jamie Tartt, one of my favorites. Absolutely. Well, for me, I'm going to steal a bit of Jason's thunder here, because I'm going to pick up on something that Tracy just said. For me, it's Roy, because in this episode and in earlier ones, the way that he approaches coaching Jamie, like for some reason on a personal level, like really speaks to me. You get up at 4:00 and this is like a little bit of stoicism here, but you get up at 4:00 in the morning because you were not built to stay in bed. And that's one of the things that Marcus Aurelius talks about, even way back then. The bed is cozy, it's warm in here, but this is not what you were meant for. And I am a bit of a glutton for punishment when it comes to training and getting things done. So I have to say there are some choice words from Roy that really spoke to me. So outside of the leadership piece in this episode, he's my favorite. But I'm sure that Jason can go on and on about more reasons why Roy is the right choice.
Well, Tracy, I think you win with team, because I think the team is certainly the standout here, and I love the way you've attached that to total football. And for me, of course, it's going to be Roy, but I'm going to go to a second place candidate because you've already taken Roy, Garth. And mine is, I think, fairly understated character you won't see him again in the series, but it's Sam's father. And, Sam obviously has a very difficult episode, break into his restaurant, a lot of challenges going on there. And Sam's father is just one of these wise sages that just drops in like an angel. And he basically, his advice is don't fight back, fight forward. And if you want to win, simply forgive them. Okay. And I can't help to love this kind of fatherly advice that comes through. And I think we see it time and time again about how do these wise people in our lives come in and provide that wealth of information, and whether we're willing to listen to it or not is up to us. But I think, listening to our elders, whether it's, my father or Sam's father or, Hal Hannaford, who's a wise sage we had on the show not long ago. I think that, so of course, Roy Kent, I love everything he did in the total football moments in the coaching, but let's go Sam's father just for a wild card today.
Yeah, I love that. I love that fight with forgiveness.
You got it.
And his relationship with Sam, right? He has always been, you've talked about this before on the show, Jason. He doesn't spend a long time on these conversations with his son, but he knows exactly what to say to provoke the thinking. And I love that about leadership. Can you say the right thing at the right time so that people can lead themselves to the right answer? Yeah.
You got it. That's coaching. Okay. Enough about that. Let's jump into the leadership lesson. Tracy, understand you got 1 or 2 or 10 for us. So Tracy, why don't you hit us with what you saw in this episode?
Yeah, there's a lot even just from the very beginning. You see people getting up early, starting their day. the power of kind gestures and attention to detail on Nate's side of things. And, you already mentioned from Sam's dad, I loved that line, don't fight back, fight forward. I think that's very, very powerful. But I think one of the biggest ones, we're all probably going to mention it, is what total football really brings to the surface. And there's so much there. I mean, from the very, very beginning, it helps us see that change is hard. Change can be messy. But the idea of total football really meaning that the leader has to step back and trust. It requires the team to have a really keen and develop an intuitive sense of each other and each other's work. And the part that I love the most, when you see a teammate making a risk, rush forward and support.
Right.
And for me, that right there, if I can isolate that, because there's so much more for total football, but if I can isolate that, when you see a team member taking a risk, rush forward and support, for me is the big takeaway. That, and I think I would probably just add, it's okay to try new ideas when you realize your current path is not getting you to where you want to go, and bringing your whole team in on that, not just doing that by yourself, but bringing in an idea that will really bring your whole team together, leveraging their strengths, helping them hone new strengths, is always okay, I think.
Garth, how are you going to follow that?
I don't know. Tracy, that's awesome. I picked up on a couple of things, this idea of trust and team. And I love the idea. I'm just picturing it in my own work or in someone else's role. Like when you see someone sitting around a senior leadership table who's like, I think we should try this, and as a leader leaning in and supporting them by saying, yeah, tell me more, or yeah, I'm in, how can I help? How can we, how can my department support your department, or something along those lines? It's a powerful moment. It would be a powerful moment in that meeting. So I really like that.
You know what I loved in this episode too, and Tracy, comes back to some of what you're talking about, but when at practice, they force all the players to change positions, draw somebody else's name. Of course, there's a funny moment in there with Jamie drawing his own name. But, I wonder in our organizations, how do we draw deeper empathy for all people's roles? And I sometimes think about independent schools. We've got business offices here. We've got schools. We've got aftercare programs. We've got summer camp programs. We've got out of school experiences. And I find that sometimes there's a lack of understanding of what everybody does in their positions. I just don't know how to bridge that gap without having that actual experiential opportunity. And I think they, do it nicely here and show the kind of discomfort that can come in not understanding each other's positions and roles and the challenges that are there. But I don't know how that happens in schools. Do either of you have an experience where, you've built out that empathy in your organization so you can better understand what others are doing and appreciate the hard work they're putting in?
I think as much as we can, we try to, during our professional work weeks in August and in June, it's not just for like the teaching faculty. We try really hard to bring everyone in the organization together, especially around at the end of the year in June, where it's around sharing our goals and how they went. And so in a group, you could have, grade 1 teacher, HR coordinator, and, an admissions director, all kind of sharing how their goal went, some challenges, successes. It's not perfect, but I think that it has definitely helped people understand a little bit more around people's roles and different aspects of the school and how they work together more and more. But we try to make our goal sharing especially really open and a full school involvement, and that's helped a bit over the years for sure.
Yeah, for us, offering up some advice for how this happens. So we have a weekly, what we call an operational email, but we always have shout outs. So we always making sure that we shout out everyone who's involved. We really take note of the people who support, not just out in the front, but in the back. Like Tracy said, in August and June, but also throughout the year, any significant professional development, we invite everybody, like faculty and staff, to attend. I think that's a really significant invitation. And then what I have noticed and what I appreciate is that sitting at a senior leadership table, like we always make sure that we're talking about the impact of one event on everyone's teams. And we always make sure to thank them publicly at the end of those events as well. So for me, it's like making sure like that empathy, I don't know if it's empathy, but it's just like making sure that they felt seen and appreciated. There's so many different departments that make a simple thing happen here, like a parent-teacher conferences and stuff, for example. And I'm sure people outside of education can think of events that their company's putting on, how to connect inside and outside the community. Yeah, it's a great question. It's a great point there, Jason. Thanks.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, with that, let's jump into a segment that I've always loved as a renaming segment. So, Tracy, why don't you take the honors? What would you rename this episode?
Well, as much as I love the name, the strings that bind us, I think has a great scene itself in the episode. I landed on signs of life for my renaming. Just from the very beginning, multiple times throughout the episode, we see people starting their day, quiet streets, waking up, opening up shops. Nate showing some signs that his light is coming back a little bit. He's showing his human side again. Ted also has kind of bounced back after his adventures in Amsterdam, and he seems to be coming back to be kind of the Ted Lasso that we know and love. And really what hit it for me was, when Sam's restaurant is destroyed and kind of left for dead, Sam's like, do I even reopen it? He comes with his dad and the whole team is there, restoring it, bringing it back to life. And the episode closes with such a robust scene of joy and life and connection, everyone around the table. So for me, signs of life.
All right, Tracy, you gave me chills like 4 times in your renaming. Garth, let's see what you could do.
You brought me back to that opening scene where things are all opening up.
Yeah,
I love that. That is great. Signs of life. Because also it's talking a little bit about what we talked about at the very beginning of the episode, which is, Beard presenting total football. These are signs of life. Like, here are some literal signs in the PowerPoint and stuff like that he's talking about. And I also like it because at any point you can, as a leader, you can inject life into an idea. And so there's a lot happening there for me. So I was playing on the idea of the word total. So I just went with total team, because the image of everyone being like connected through the string, total team, like it is a great analogy, because if you make one move in an organization on your own, you're going to affect everybody else. If you involve everybody else to make a move, that move is going to be kinder, gentler, and more compassionate. So I like the idea of total team, but I'll turn over to Jason. What's yours?
Garth, this seems to keep happening. We're very, very close, you and I, and we're both losers in this, is what it comes down to. But I chose total leadership. Back to the notion of total football. Yeah. If you're to delve into the principles of total football as is presented in the series, total football is presented as fluid, attacking style of play where every player except the goalkeeper is capable of taking on any position on the field, emphasizing teamwork, adaptability, and positional interchangeability. And in this strategy requires high level skill, understanding, coordinating among players, allowing them to dominate possession and game control. But like total football, leadership is dynamic and involves having people who can take on multiple roles, fluid roles, and leading and working within silos can create issues. And, in spite of the fact that we might argue that boundaries create ownership, I think sometimes those boundaries create overall lack of fluidity and ownership across organizations. So I think, total leadership would be fine if Signs of Life wasn't presented as a renaming. So Tracy, I'm voting for you. Well done on that one.
Yeah, I love it. It captures so much more than just the total football side of this episode. So yeah, I appreciate that. But Jason, I would add to this idea of total football too, this this idea, what I liked about this episode, bit of a leadership lesson from me here, is that you introduce a new concept to the whole team, but you really have to follow up individually. We see that throughout the episode, people taking it on, asking different questions. And so as a leader, you can't just say, here's the PowerPoint, let's go do it. For me, it's like following up individually. So total leadership requires not just speaking to a mass of people, it requires us to go to those individual people. So yeah.
Love it.
Let's jump to our leadership challenge. So Tracy,
Mm-hmm.
what is a challenge that's sort of inspired by this episode? What could you leave our listeners with?
So my challenge is inspired by our friend Trent, who at the very kind of end, they're coming off the field after playing Arsenal, and he's like really excited, and he's like, Ted, you didn't just introduce something new. You've been doing it slowly all along. You've been building confidence, you've been gaining trust, and then here you are, basically. So my leadership challenge is kind of to take a moment, reflect back on maybe a project or a team initiative, and kind of do a self-check with yourself. Have you been providing team members along the way for areas to push themselves, to grow? Where and how have you been building trust and building up people's confidence? And it's okay if at the end of that reflection, you're like, maybe I haven't been doing that so much. So start now, right? Plan that out so that you can maybe someday bring in an idea like total football and your team's ready for it.
Oh, leadership challenge accepted. Tracy, knocked it out of the ballpark here. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. Tracy and I are both big Blue Jays fans. Jason, so live with it.
Guys,
he's a Cardinals fan, so let's not get into that. We'd love to hear from our listeners what they took out of episode 7 as well. And a reminder, if you like what you've heard here, rate the pod, share it with your friends.
And if we're ever going to get Sudeikis or anybody else famous on this show onto this show, we're going to need your help and support. So with that, Tracy brings us to the end of our time together. Can you take us home?
Absolutely. Until next time, keep leading the Lasso way.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Tracy. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Tracy.